Well, hey everybody, Fist-25 here. Jawa is behind the camera filming. I apologize for the audio quality. We are shooting on my cell phone in my basement, which my wife calls the dungeon. So come on around here, Jawa. We are, come on over around. This is the stream setup here. We're gonna upgrade the computer today. Let me see the camera.
Okay.
Right now, that's my rig right now. It is running a 5800X3D, and it has a NVIDIA 3080 Ti in it. And so yeah, I am gonna go and upgrade to AM5, and with a 7950X3D, keeping the same graphics card, but a new motherboard, new RAM, and a new cooler, a bigger cooler, a 360 AIO. And I want to see the difference really with Star Citizen and the way we can manipulate the CCDs. And I'm going to try to put everything on one CCD. Star Citizen used the V-Cache RAM, or the V-Cache in the chip, and see what happens. And I might be able to actually get rid of my stream PC, which is this monitor and this PC over here, and actually be able to stream and run all my background tasking and window tasking on one CCD and Star Citizen on the other, and actually have one PC to rule them all. So stay tuned, and we're going to go over the upgrade stuff now and all the stuff to upgrade, and then I'm going to report in on the frames I get. And remember, this is a 4K monitor, so I play in 4K, but I stream in 1080, so there's transcoding involved, and Star Citizen is very resource intensive in 4K, as you guys can imagine, as it is in 1080. So let's see what happens. Stay tuned. All right, folks, so we are back in my very messy living room, and just wanted to show you the new parts that are going in for this upgrade. First off, the MSI Mag X670E Tomahawk motherboard. I got this one specifically because I have a bunch of M.2 drives, and I needed something that was going to run all of them. I did pick up a new cooler. It's an Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360. I could care less about the RGB, but this one had it for the right price as well, and it's a bigger cooler than the one that I currently have. The RAM is G.SKILL. Again, I could care less about the RGB, but it is DDR5, and I believe this, what speed did I get? I think it's 5600. No, it's 6400. So here's the stat sheet on that. We'll see if the PC can even run that. I'm probably going to do it at 6200, maybe 6000. And then there is the chip, the AMD Ryzen 9 7950X3D. And that's what we're going to put into the build. So when I get my motherboard and all the other peripherals out of my old, or my current PC, I'll take some more video of the build and the parts that I am keeping in there. Of course, I'm keeping the 3080 Ti. I am also keeping the power supply that's in there. It's a 1200 watt power supply, I think. It might be 1000, but I think it's 1200. 12,000. 1,000 watt or 1,200 watt. Yeah, one of the two. And all my M.2 drives, all my hard drives, all that stuff in there, that's staying with the PC. You just got to get them hooked up to this guy. And I'm keeping my case, which is a fractal design case. And we can go over more about that stuff when I actually start doing the build. So stay tuned for that. And then after the build and the plug-in and all the setup, and I got to do a bunch of stuff in the BIOS and update the BIOS right away so the SoC voltage doesn't blow up this chip and set my house on fire. I'm going to do all the stuff with Star Citizen, throw Star Citizen on the core, the CCD0 with V-Cache, 3D V-Cache, which will still be running off of 8 cores by itself, which is pretty much the 7800 X3D by itself. And then on the other 8 cores, and 8 threads. I'll put all the system processes that I can, along with things like Discord and Chrome and all my sound stuff and all the streaming stuff, and I will record frame rates and Star Citizen with and without streaming, because streaming takes more than just recording. Recording is not bad in OBS, but streaming takes a lot. And we'll see what happens. You know, maybe it's good enough to throw to the stream PC. Maybe I can just stream off this PC. Who knows? But we'll check it out, see what happens, so stay tuned for that. Alright guys, as you can see, I took the motherboard out. Here we have the rear I/O. We have the RAM already installed into slot 1A and 1B, dual channel. And we already went ahead and installed the CPU. The new land grid array is definitely different. But I do appreciate the new big arrows that AMD is using, or maybe that's MSI, but the chip also has a big arrow on it. And so now I'm ready to tear apart my current PC and yank out all my M.2s and then the motherboard and get this thing installed. So hang tight and we'll swap over to that one real quick. Alright everybody, so there's the built up motherboard. Here is the guts of the beast right now. 3080 Ti. Power supply kind of down there. There is the old cooler that is going away. Going from a 240 system to a 360 system. So, yep, the ASRock X570 Taichi motherboard, which has done really well. It's gonna go into the stream PC. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so I will get back when I put this in there. Alright folks, so that took a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got the MSI motherboard installed, the brand new cooler. Got everything bolted down. The new RAM, let's see. There's the new Arctic 360 cooler. RAM's installed. The graphics card's in there. We actually, Jawa did a little bit of cable management back there. So
It needed it.
It did need it. It was a little atrocious. Funny thing, I don't think I can even show it. Can you guys see that, where that motherboard screw should be? Right there in the middle? Yeah. Just like that one over there. It's kind of, it doesn't want to focus very much. Anyway, it doesn't want to focus. But that motherboard screw and this motherboard screw, when I was tightening down the cooler, yeah, it just broke and popped off. And it hit Jawa as I was tightening it down. And he's like, what just hit me? And I was looking around. I'm like, there's no capacitors that broke off. I don't know what it was. So I don't know if there's just too much pressure on the standoff or what. But, yeah. So our wives watched us curse a little bit as we were putting this guy in. I'm not really worried about anything. I mean, I don't love this loop here. This thing, the cooler, probably should be facing the other direction. It shouldn't matter, actually. But yeah, if it was facing the other direction, these would be longer, and it wouldn't be such a weird little loop like this. But it should be fine, because this should be a pretty powerful pump. I don't love how the CPU cable here just kind of hangs out in space, but maybe I'll zip tie it to something later, and the RGB cable or the power cable for the fan just kind of sits there. Anyway, yeah, so we're done. Time to put the cover back on, take it downstairs into the dungeon, and get it fired up and give it a test. And all the M.2s got installed and everything, and so yeah. So there's the old motherboard up there on top of that little curio cabinet there. So yeah, and then there's the mess we left. So with the magic of video editing, let's see this thing powered on. Well, hey folks, here we are, nearing 11 o'clock at night, I think. It's been a long night. Jawa and I had some issues with this PC. Very strange, very weird. Like, we built it and everything was going okay, and then we did a test boot, and like, I was so confident it was going to boot right away that I brought it downstairs into the dungeon, ready to go. Wouldn't boot. I'm like, what's going on? Power came on, but it just wouldn't boot. So I'm like, I don't know. There's some debug lights on this MSI motherboard. Took me a minute to figure that out. But once I looked at them, I'm like, CPU and DRAM. Okay. So I wasn't even thinking. I brought it back upstairs. We took the covers off, things like that, and did some troubleshooting. Couldn't get it to clear the error codes. It was still having issues. So then I'm looking through the manual, which, by the way, wasn't included. Thanks, MSI. That would have been nice. I had to look it up online. Anyway, I looked that up, and I'm like, oh, God. Install the RAM in slot B2 and A2 and B2, not A1 and B1. And that was 100% the issue. So I swapped the RAM to the other two slots, booted it up, and the error cleared. And I was like, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And so we buttoned it back up. That was the third time we had to take the cooler out of the top of the radiator. That's a 360 millimeter cooler. It's kind of have to finagle to get it out. So take it downstairs into the dungeon, hook everything up, plug power in. It won't turn on. Don't know why it won't turn on, because we literally swapped the RAM, plugged the graphics card back in, screwed the radiator down, and brought it downstairs. So I spent the last 2.5 hours troubleshooting, and I'm like, the only thing I could think of was power supply or the cables, right? Motherboard cable, CPU power cable, something. Even the switch from my case, the power switch, because I don't have a reset switch. I'm like, maybe it's the switch. Maybe it's something with the case. I don't know. So I did a lot of stuff. I actually ripped apart my stream PC, and I stole, kind of hard to see, I stole its power supply. Which, only 850 watts, and not really enough for this thing. But I was just trying to test stuff out. It didn't work either. And it's not as modular as this EVGA 1200 watt, verified 1200 watt power supply. So I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I just kind of was like, I got to think. And I went and had some dinner. And I came back downstairs, and I just started taking stuff apart. I pulled out the old trusty multimeter, my Radio Shack special. If you don't know what Radio Shack is, you are not old enough. And I started reading things out. I made sure that the power switch actually worked through the cabling, and it actually did actuate. I plugged in that other power supply, and somehow, after I dropped the radiator down and took out the graphics card, and I swapped the power switch cable, something happened, right? I actually got the RAM LEDs to light up. I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I wonder. That power supply was never bad to begin with. So I started hooking up the original power supply and put all that stuff back on. And with everything torn apart and the computer in pieces, yeah, it booted. Well, it didn't boot, but it actually, tried to start up. So I'm like, okay. So I'm putting it together piece by piece and then turning it on in between. It turned on every single time. I even, at one point, plugged in HDMI cable, and I got Windows to come up. So it actually booted straight to Windows. So now I got everything put back together. It has a little bit different configuration now. It's pretty much the same. We changed the radiator over to the front side so that the tubes stretch out a little bit. I kept the main motherboard cable on the outside of the little bar that helps hold this thing. And I did that because I was wondering maybe it was scrunching the cables, or maybe there's an intermittent open. I don't know. But I got everything back in there. Everything started booting up, and look, I got a BIOS screen. So, there we go. Now it's time to configure the BIOS and hop into Windows and start configuring that. Once I get the BIOS going and I'm able to boot into Windows, I'm going to shut down for the night because it's a little bit late, and I will continue tomorrow, and we'll wrap up this video after I change the priority cache and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that, and I'm just glad it's working. That's a lot of money down there. All right, guys, so we are back again. I apologize for the sound quality, but and I'm filming on my cell phone here because we're about to do something here. I've been gone for a couple of days. I had to go to California on business, but came back. Everything was working fine with the rig after the upgrade, and I do need to reboot, so I'm going to restart right now. And I did want to kind of show the audience something, if I can manage to keep my hands stable while filming this. I got some reflections in the screen there, but I had to do a Windows update anyway, so might as well kill two birds with one stone since I have to do the reboot. So the whole point of this is I wanted to go over the issues that I had during installation of the whole system, particularly with the BIOS. The Ryzen 7950X3D so far has proven to be a good chip. And we're going to go into process Lasso here in a minute once I'm actually booted in. So I can show you guys kind of how I plan to get the speed for the game and the streaming at the same time. But before we do that, I wanted to show the shortcomings, really, for this chip. Some of you guys may be more familiar with this than others. And the reason this is taking so long is because that RAM down there is actually training. So every time I reboot, it feels like every time I reboot, my RAM has to retrain, which is kind of a new thing for me. And here we go. We finally got something coming up. Stream Deck came online, just waiting for the keyboard, and so now I'm going to hit delete to go into my MSI BIOS. Just spamming that delete button. So I wasn't able to actually get the full 6400 megahertz with my RAM, and I was having hiccups with it when I tried to do that. So as you can I gotta get my finger out of there. As you can kind of see here, up in the corner, it's kind of hard to see that. It's CPU boost is what it is. And right now it's showing my CPU at 5.0. Sorry, it's showing my CPU at 5.05 gigahertz, and the RAM at 6,000 megahertz. The reason it's like that is because when I had the RAM using this XMP profile right here, it did not do a good job when it set it to 6400 megahertz. So 6.4 gigahertz, which is what the RAM is rated at. So while I was able to get the CPU boost going, no issues with that, I actually had to come in here and I had to change the frequency of the RAM. I set it to 6,000, and I better get out of that. And then I actually had to go in here and mess with my RAM timing. So I found a couple helpful videos on YouTube, of course. That's what we always do. But I had to come in here and set specific custom values to my main timing configuration, which are all set in there now. This is pretty much all I set. I didn't set any of the other stuff down there. And now my RAM is actually really stable. The DDR4 RAM I was using with the 5800X3D was, I believe, maximum was like 3400 megahertz, and I had 4 sticks of 16 in there, giving me 64 gigs. Now I have 2 sticks of 32, giving me dual channel RAM, giving me 64 gigs, and running at 6000 megahertz, so almost twice as fast. And I do notice the speed update on it for sure. I also had to get the latest BIOS version because, you know, AMD had the issue with the socket. The voltage was too high. It was burning up people's chips and things like that. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and quit without saving. Yes, I'm going to boot into the OS, and then we're going to switch over to my actual microphone and recording setup here with my actual camera, the whole nine, and I'm going to go over basically how Process Lasso is working for me and how we can get all that stuff working and show you basically streaming and what's going on with it, and hopefully everything will actually work the way it did the other day, the way it's supposed to. So stay tuned for that. It should be the last part of the video. I'm not trying to make this super long, and then I'll make sure to give a spec list of what is in the system currently and what I'm using to stream, things like that. So stay tuned and check out the description. Make sure to like and subscribe. All right, guys. So now we're back finally on the normal system here, and I am recording right now. I have it set up 1080p using OBS. I'm looking at my screen here, and let me switch over to my main display. There we go. Okay, so now I have my main center display up here. It's funny when you change all your connections around how everything changes. Anyway, I wanted to bring up Ryzen Master. Just take a look at the CPU and how things are going, because that was the major upgrade. I did not upgrade the GPU, just the CPU to the 7950X3D. So temperatures right now, somewhere in the mid 40s, low to mid 40s. It can go up to its maximum threshold of 89C. That is a limit that was manually set by me, but it actually is set with the new BIOS version. The chips are actually made to run pretty hot. I haven't pushed it real hard yet, but we're going to see what it gets up to in Star Citizen. But right now it's pretty darn cool. It's on a 360 millimeter 3-fan setup by Arctic Cooling. You can see all the other stats here. The speed's not real high because I don't need it real high, but it is set up in overclocking to get up to 5700 megahertz, so 5.7 gigahertz. These are all the basic stats through Ryzen Master, and we're going to check back on this when we're in Star Citizen. The other thing I wanted to show here was Process Lasso. So Process Lasso is a program that I have been using here, and you can see there's a log down here. What it's going to do is over here in the CPU affinity section, there's lots of log stuff going on. I have different cores set up to do different things. So let me sort by affinity here. Doesn't have my zeros in here, or my full affinities, but basically I have things like the RSI launcher in here set up. There's a priority for it, but there's also an affinity, meaning 0 through 15 up here means it's going to use cores 0 through 15. So the first 8 cores, 8 threads. And because Star Citizen, the game, inherits everything from the RSI launcher, that's kind of how it goes. Let me turn the webcam here. Work. There we go. And it should inherit basically the cores here. So that means Star Citizen will be running on 8 cores, 8 threads. And I have almost everything else set to use other cores, which is pretty interesting. I do have some things that use all cores, like Ryzen Master, a bunch of system services and things like that. They go 0 to 31, which is a 16 cores, 16 threads, 32 total cores, right?
But then I have all my other ancillary processes like Adobe and Chrome and all that. They're set via process lasso here. I can click here, hold down shift, drag down here, and then I can set the affinity for always. And I have them on, well, it's not showing it right now because I had everything changed the other day, but I can set them to use all the second set of cores. So it should not, in theory, affect Star Citizen in any way. Star Citizen and a couple of the system processes should have all of its own stuff to run on. So I'm talking about Chrome. I'm talking about Elgato Control Center, all my Adobe Creative Cloud stuff, Discord's on there, Elgato audio controllers, my mouse stuff, my printer stuff, all my NVIDIA stuff, NVIDIA Broadcast, things like that. OBS is running on the other 8 cores. My all kinds of stuff up there. My Steam's running on the other ones. SteelSeries running on the other ones. All that stuff, as well as a bunch of other Windows processes, including Discord and things like that. They're all running on the other cores. So in theory, this should help with being able to stream at the same time as being able to game, because the load in 4K is so big that the 5800 X3D just couldn't deal with it. And maybe I could have used Process Lasso to finagle that a little bit, move OBS just to 2 cores or something like that. But this chip has more cores. They're faster, and the first 8, the 0 through 15, they have the 3D V cache, so faster cache on the chip, versus the other 8 cores have the legacy or the regular speed V cache, non 3D V cache. So it's still fast, but a little bit slower. So I want the game to use the fastest stuff possible for the best experience. And the frames I was getting in game without streaming was in a good area. I could get up to 80 frames in a good area without streaming. And when I was streaming or things were going on, even if it was just NDI transmitting, because the video was going straight through to my capture card, it was just transmitting audio. OBS was up, sucking down resources. I have 2 different, I have a mic program, I have Elgato, I have SteelSeries, I have all this different stuff hooked up for streaming. And it just sucked up so much CPU resources. Google Chrome is a bad one, Discord's a bad one, audio's going through. It made the game almost unplayable. You guys have probably heard on the stream the sound fluctuations I would have, popping, fading in and out, all kinds of crazy stuff, along with delays. So that's bad. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. I'm going to keep Ryzen kind of hanging out over here. I actually may just go ahead and move it over to my Discord screen right now so I can monitor the temps. Just to let you know, we do have a stream up here. It's just a test stream. We're actually just going to start the stream. I'm going to select it here on OBS. Select the test video, and boom, there we go. So now we are streaming on OBS. There we go. YouTube finally caught up. It's going in 1080p because that's what it should be going in. And I'm going to bring in the OBS window here. I don't think I have it set up to where it doesn't actually show. Let me see if I can. Nope, I can't change that. I have it set up where if I have OBS on screen, it won't actually show OBS, so it's a little weird. But I do have it going right now, and I would love to show you, but frames missed due to rendering lag is 0 out of over 2,000 right now. Skip frames due to encoding lag, 0 out of about 2,400 right now. Dropped network frames, 0 out of about 2,750 right now. So no dropped frames from encoding, rendering, or network lag. Before, when doing this, it was horrendous. It was bad. So this is another way to help improve that. And let's see. Okay, I have Star Citizen up here. Let's go ahead and launch 319.1. Let's see what happens here. I'm looking at my temps. I jumped up to 58 degrees. I do have everything set to overclock, but I don't have it in game mode right now. So I did, turn the PBO or the basically the boost, if you will. I turned that stuff on. So let's hope I don't get the network hub thing that's plagued me a few times here. We'll get Star Citizen loaded up here. Temps are still 46, 50, 58 right now, 46. They're bouncing around in a few different places. Over here on OBS, still at 0 missed frames due to rendering, encoding, and no network loss. And even this background screen can be pretty detrimental to just doing things, much less being in the game. So first thing we're going to do is get our frames displayed. Okay, so at the menu, sitting at basically 60 frames, 59.9, 60 up there right now. And let's go ahead and hit PU temperatures at 50 degrees, which is just fine. Still no dropped frames or anything like that. I did want to bring up process Lasso. So we can see that RSI launcher right here, it's in cores 0 through 15. And then Star Citizen launcher and easy anti-cheat. So basically the Star Citizen executable and easy anti-cheat are set up for cores 0 through 15. So they are using only those 8 cores, 8 threads. Let's go back into the game. We'll hit up PU Everest Harbor. Sometimes Everest Harbor is good, sometimes it's bad. Just depends. Right now, FPS, it might be hard to see, but it's top right of the screen. It's at 52, and then I dropped down to 20. Now it's back up in the 50s. Now here's the thing, guys. I'm playing in 4K. I'm actually recording the 4K screen, but OBS is transcoding it down to 1080p. So I'm actually playing in 4 times the resolution of the screen you're watching right now. Temps just hit 66, 64, 60, 61. So they're roughly in the low to mid 60s. And the max is 89. So I still have quite a bit of headroom. And the chip is okay to run in the 80s. It's not going to damage it. It is made to run fairly hot. Right now, FPS in the 70s, sitting in the hab. Still no dropped frames or anything like that. And I am still streaming. This test video of YouTube is still going here. We can see I just moved there's a little bit of a delay, but it's still going. And it's still on the live marker, which is a good thing because a lot of times when there's delays, it moves off the live and I got to re-click it. So I'll move that back up there. OBS is still good. Let's hop out of the rack here. 74 frames. With the 5800X3D, I would probably get somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 something in the hab in 4K. Let's hop out here. Frames drop down to 65, 66. Temps are still in the low 60s right now, 62, 60 degrees. We hit the lobby. Still no drop frames. And this right here, when these textures would load in, they would actually load in pretty slow. And I had some really choppy video over here. But right now, this is, other than, it's not optimized and VSync is off, it's pretty smooth. It's running at 44, 45 frames right now. That's not perfect in 4K, but I can handle that. It's a lot better than 9, 10. Let's go into inventory mode. Pop that off. See if we can get a burrito. Because apparently my guy's hungry. There is a burrito. He is not hungry anymore. We'll grab a bottle of water. Oh, we're back to this thing where you're not dropping your stuff. Okay, bottle of water down the hatch. Hey, my hand's not all crazy. 60 frames right here in this instance right there. And just like everybody else, we'll go ahead and litter. Drop that down, and we will put our helmet back on. All right. So temperatures, 61 degrees, 60 degrees, still no drop frames, 46, 47 FPS right here at the ASOP terminals. I want to give it the big test, guys. The big test for me right now is lately has been Lorville, the actual city of Lorville. So we're going to call out the Harbinger, Hangar 1. I want to see what the frames are in Lorville. I haven't tested that on this chip. Playing the game in 4K, running the stream. You can see some of the screen tearing right there. Isn't Hangar 1 the big hangar? It's a gigantic hangar. I'm not sure. I'm sure glad this computer is working after finding the issues that Jawa and I found. Installing the RAM in the wrong slots. Rookie mistake. I know. Rookie mistake. But then just having it not work, and then all of a sudden it worked. Very odd. I think it was the way the RAM was set up or something similar to that. Kind of like the doors on a Vanguard. Rear door. Very weird. I'd love to see an update for this ship. I really would. So 60 frames, 65 frames in the cockpit. Temperature is still the same, about 62. No drop frames in OBS. We're going to go ahead and start up the ship. 45 frames right here. Not too shabby. We're going to go ahead and lift up. Game is running smooth. I'll take 40, 38. I'll take 30 frames all day long in 4K. Because if you haven't played Star Citizen in 4K, you're missing out. Because one of the things that gets most people is the graphics of Star Citizen. Look at this. It is so unbelievably gorgeous. It's so detailed. It's such a detailed game. The lighting, the art. And even Jawa will tell you, because he's played on my PC before, when you play in 4K, it changes things. Now, those clouds are in medium. Just to let you know, those clouds are in medium. Let's go ahead and see what happens when we put them to high. Options. I know, not recommended. Volumetric clouds. Let's go to very high. Right there. Now we're down into 29 frames, 30 frames. Right there. So CIG has a lot of work to go to do to make that worth actually putting those clouds at a high setting. Because it doesn't add anything for me right now. But going back to medium, instantly jumped up to 45, 46 frames. So that's 17 frames we're losing on the most modern processor you could have. And I know a lot of it's GPU. Maybe if I had a 4090, things would be a lot different. I don't think they'd be a lot different, though. I think in 4K, they'd pretty much be the same. But the beautiful thing right now is I'm able to stream this. I'm streaming this live. It's a test video, but it's still streaming at the same thing I would stream a normal stream. I have OBS going. I got Discord going. I have Ryzen Master going. I have Process Lasso, which takes some CPU to run. I have, I did finally hit 4 frames missed due to rendering lag. Nothing for network. And that was probably when I swapped the clouds over. So I'm going to reset that. 4 out of 37,000. So definitely less than 1%. My FPS right now, 36. My temps are up in the 70s now. 69. It was just a 74. Let me turn cruise control on. So there's more entities and stuff going on here at Lorville. So and maybe it needs a little more CPU power, or maybe OBS needs it, maybe YouTube needs it. I don't know. But 67 degrees now. So it did hop up there and it's like 75, which is still 14 degrees less than its max, which is just fine. Clouds actually look pretty good from here. 32 FPS right there. They made the clouds so low in Lorville. Sometimes if you don't know the city very well, you're not going to know where to fly into. 30 FPS. Oh, it dipped into 29. 26. 28. Guys, it's still playable. If I was on my old rig, I'd probably be in the 10s, maybe the low teens. Yeah, it's still playable, but this is twice as good, if not 3 times as good. 25, 26 FPS. We'll go ahead and call for a landing. And we will, the Krabby Patty. If you are watching the video at any point in time, welcome to the video. Okay, we know our hangar. Oh, there's a wrecked Carrick on there. The complete absence of cleanup routines. And the gravity of Lorville. 27 FPS if you're watching on the screen. 28. So 27 right now with most of the entities out. Ugh, it's so hard to judge from this angle. Don't lose my gun. Okay, 26 frames. 25. We'll do the auto parking. 31 frames now that we're in the hangar and there's less entities. But 95,000 entities right there. And there we go. So Lorville as a whole, somewhere in the 30s. So of course we can't get any gas. Why would we be able to get gas? Must have hit an awesome server. Yeah, curious to as what you guys think. Temperatures 65 degrees. Since I changed the clouds back to medium, I have had no loss rendering. So there we go. Playing in 4K. I can definitely record in 4K right now. Streaming in 4K is a whole different ballgame. Something I do not want to do at all. Because it's just not fun at all. And it takes up so much bandwidth. I don't have that much upload where I live. So 1080p is pretty much the best it gets. But what do you guys think? What do you think of the build? Are you interested in doing a similar build yourself? Do you think the 7950 was a waste of my money and I should have got Intel? I used to work for Intel, by the way. I used to build those chips. I don't have anything against Intel. I just think AMD, you get a better value for your price. I am curious to your thoughts, though. There's a lot of people who know a lot more about computers than I do, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I have not changed my preferred mode to cache, if anybody is wondering, and we know what that means. But frames right here, solid at about 3940. So, yeah, let me switch over to my hanging out screen. And there we go. Okay, so I think that concludes the build video. I apologize for probably, I haven't heard it yet, the crappy audio on the cell phone, but I didn't have access to Jawa's GoPro. I hope you did enjoy this. I haven't made a video in a while. The next series of real life videos that Jawa and I are going to make, we're going to do some health videos, actually. Health for the PC gamer that are not professional esports gamers, because those guys are actually really fit. But Jawa and I are kind of going through some health stuff. We're working out a lot, 5-6 days a week. Jawa's using his iWatch to track all his fitness stuff. I'm using my Garmin watch here. Of course, it doesn't want to turn on the stream. Right there, if you could. Nope, not the stream. Yeah, I'm using my Garmin Epix Pro. I'm recording my stuff. We're gonna go over some of that, some diet stuff, some things we're doing to work out, because we're not killing ourselves. But Jawa and I have each lost over 10 pounds. I don't know if you can see it. I got less skin under my chin. And we're trying to be more healthy. And it's not to look good on the beach. It's because we're both a little bit older, like a lot of our audience. And I want to be alive when this game comes out. You know what I mean? It will come out one day. It may be 15 years from now. But damn it, it's going to come out. And I want to play Star Citizen when it's fully released. So I want to live that long because I know people who have died waiting for it to come out. So with that, I am Fist-25. Thank you guys for watching. Please throw some comments up there if you enjoyed the video. If you're interested, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. We're going to keep streaming every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time with the B team. Shout out to Kalis, Tibbs, Optimisto, Tailgater, some of the new guys like Paveway and oh man, there's so many new faces. I got to get used to everybody. And don't forget Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Mountain Time, Java with Jawa, the chill stream, even though they've been doing odd stuff lately. And hopefully we'll see you in the verse. Good night, Stan.